So I think at the very core is not give up.
Yeah. You mean if I put out one post and it doesn't go viral, I should keep going?
Or if you put out 50.
Yeah.
I think that the biggest thing in this game, if you want to build a brand, is just be consistent.
Hey, sitting here at the open forum with Cordie Walker, Golf Science Lab, and all the other factors. You come every year to this.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Except last year.
Why didn't I last year? You had a baby?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, well, details. Okay, so I want to talk to you about what I want to talk about is the social media brand developing of this game that you've been integrated into for the last 8-10 years in the golf world, because it's led to a lot of instructors really putting a platform out and gaining a lot of success. But really, at the bigger level, is brand management. So talk to me about what people here, like at the open forum and stuff, or people, what can they do to help reach their client base? What are the principles, the foundations?
Yeah, so I think at the very core is not give up.
Yeah. You mean if I put out one post and it doesn't go viral, I should keep going?
Or if you put out 50.
Yeah.
I think that the biggest thing in this game, if you want to build a brand, is just be consistent. It's really weird being here now because I remember I think I started coming and doing this maybe 7 years ago now. It feels like yesterday, but in the world that we live, it's forever. And I remember like today, demo day out there this morning, just looking around and seeing people with cameras.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about you, but like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, it wasn't a thing. And
you know what people would say if you're walking around with a camera? They're like, why you got to film this, man?
Yeah.
Like, what are you trying to get? And now, probably tomorrow at the show, it's going to be full of cameras.
Yeah. So it's like, it's amazing how it changes. And one of the biggest things about that is just being consistent in what you do. If it pops or it doesn't, because most of it will, see very few people. And so I think the biggest advice to start out with is if you come into this with a goal of, I want to get to, this many people, I want to do this or do that. That's the total wrong way to approach it. You have to say like, hey, I think the way that I do it now, which has been most helpful, is approach a project or a series in some way. So instead of saying like, hey, I want to do, I want to publish this much, or I'm trying to get here, say, here's a question I have, I'm going to go find the answer to that. Or here's a question that people ask me, I'm going to go see what all these other people think about that. Find a way to frame stuff in a series you can create kind of this legacy content that really can stand on its own, regardless of whether, however relevant it is. And I'm laughing because I'm thinking about one of the guys you love, Ryan Holiday, wrote the book Perennial Seller, and I'm kind of echoing some of what he said.
But I'm telling you, if you're a golf instructor, if you're a coach of any kind, and you haven't read Perennial Seller, you're an idiot. Yeah. I mean, I'm just flat out telling you. Put it at the top of your list and read it, because he has a great comment that he says, your book you write today will sell the book you wrote 5 years ago. Don't look for today's book to be the bestseller. In fact, when Ryan and I sat down and talked, he had never had a New York Times bestseller before. Now he's got two because of the release of Stillness is the Key. It brought back The Obstacle is the Way. It's fascinating how that works.
I think, but that approach toward creating content in a world where we're trying to gamify things and make it more viral is going to help everybody. Like if we stop trying to chase, so there's a reason. It's interesting. I was talking with one media company who didn't bring down their full team this week because they didn't see anything pop from last week. You come into an event like this thinking like, we're going to make all this content about all these things, and it's, it's just all this random stuff. And something, people have to resonate with something. Well, maybe not, because there's not focused around a specific question or topic or idea. So it's kind of finding this this core question, this core reason of who you're going after, what are the questions they're answering, how can we create something around that will last far beyond this month when it's published or this day when it's published, right?
So one of the ones that, the itch of me, okay, people always ask me, we started our podcast 3.5 years ago. I've renamed it a couple times, and the renaming is just because I wanted to shift what I was doing. It had nothing to do with market research. It had nothing. It was just like, hey, I'm going to go in a new direction. I want a title to. It's the same podcast. It's the same format. It's just I want to have a different format. What I want to look at is, what builds effective leaders that inspire others, and what are those challenges? And one of them is communication of a consistent philosophy and brand. That is clear.
Yep.
You help people do that.
Yep.
Okay, now, on the flip side of that, we've got a lot of young instructors that may lack some of the chops but are really good at branding. And you have some great instructors that are great at the chops but don't know how to brand. How do we marry those two to actually – because I got to think at the end result, your potential client base is not the 10% of the golfers that hang around the 19th hole. It's the people who've never been inspired to take a lesson that need to see it in a different perspective.
So how do you marry the world, the people that are really good at branding and the others that are really good at teaching? And find a way? Well, I mean, honestly, a big way is partnering or mentorship, right?
Yeah.
Like more people should work together in kind of that apprentice fashion, right? I mean, this is maybe not the answer we're going for, but if you're really good at branding and a young teacher, you should partner and be kind of an apprentice. I think that's like, I didn't have that in kind of my early career development. I wish I did. I feel like it would have helped me. I think there's a lot of opportunities around that people are missing just because they want to do stuff on their own. And maybe there's an opportunity to do stuff together that's going to help you get there faster and learn more along the way. It's kind of an interesting answer. I don't know.
No. I love it, though, because, one of the things I see is, like, people will say, well, I mean, how many golf podcasts are there or whatever? I'm like,
more the better is always my answer. More the better.
When we go to Barnes & Noble, we don't go, oh, my God, look how many damn books are out here.
Yeah.
We don't go, we may say, oh, I'm going to get to that one later, or I'm going to find something that's interesting here or there. There's not one podcast that I listen to or one video podcast or vlog that I watch it from soup to nuts. I'm going to pick and choose where I go, and I'll come back and cycle around. A lot of our podcasts, though, are geared towards other coaches. Are we missing something geared towards our final client?
Yes, I think so. Well, I think it gets back to defining who is your content for and what's the questions that they're asking.
Right.
If it doesn't answer any of those questions, then you're maybe aiming at the wrong target, or you need to readjust the strategy of that content you're making, right? Like if your end client is you want to talk to golfers about psychology of their game, your content should be around what are the questions. Right? It should be, right? Like
in theory.
Yeah.
But the discomfort there is high for people.
What do you mean?
You put a camera in front of people, and I've done. Look, you too. You've got wonderful teachers. You put a camera in front of somebody and put a mic, and it starts chewing on that tongue. They can't communicate their ideas. They get stuck. They're trying to be so perfect.
Yeah.
So trying to go to that end user could be a challenge too.
I mean, I have a really lame answer, and is that you got to practice. Like, were you a good golf instructor your first 3 months? No. So you're not going to be necessarily good on video or whatever that is in your content creation either. It's a whole separate skill set that you have to develop. So I think it's a time game. It's a reps game. And you've learned that. You've learned that with podcasting. You've learned that with video.
How many people have been through in my organization? But I can't, we sat down as an organization and said, I'm sick and tired of not driving what I wanted.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it because I know what I need to do. But it's been hard to get the execution there.
Yeah.
And what's cool
and it's building the skill sets too. Yeah. Like for you personally, like I just noticed I like your band that you got.
My whoop? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I went with the black one.
Okay.
Yeah. You can see it's impacted my exercise. But you're right. It's like the learn. Where's the next platform? I mean, TikTok is all over the. I mean, I'm not TikTok.
I don't know if I necessarily care, to be honest.
Really,
I'm more interested in. Right now, I've got a couple like book projects that I'm working on.
Good.
I've got these projects which are more project centric rather than chasing the cycle.
Okay.
Trying to be more project centric on creating something substantial.
All in golf?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, obviously, you have to have kind of your stuff that's going all the time, but I think you also have to budget time and resources for the other thing. So I'm not necessarily looking for the new thing. I'm just looking to answer the questions that I have and that I hear in a better way or a more entertaining way, or how I kind of think it should be produced.
Which golf coach system program, whatever, that you would kill to spend 36 hours with to capture?
About their process or that is a great question. I feel like I need to ring the helpline here because nothing's coming.
Phone a friend.
Nothing's coming to mind. Honestly, I've been really lucky to hang out
Oh,
in
you've
some
had good
pretty
access.
cool spots,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And like hang out at a
But who would you
tour event. And
who would you want to like sit down with at the bar and say, okay, mic on, let's rock, let's dive?
It's probably more outside golf, to be honest.
Okay, who would that be?
A lot of guys in the learning and performance space, like Dave Allred is a guy that I would love to sit down with and hang out and learn more from. I'm just interested in anything when it comes to learning and performance, and sitting down with people that have helped people at the highest level, kind of coached at that level. And nobody's coming to mind, which is really strange.
Yeah, I know.
Like I feel like I've been able to chat with cool people. Like nothing has, stands out, which is
what is your impact that you made on the game? Because I know when you started, you were hustling. You were kind of new in the genre of.
I was.
Media capture.
What is the impact? I don't know. Like my emphasis has always been on practice and performance and trying to shift us toward a coaching conversation.
Yep.
And I feel like the industry is shifting that way. So I don't know if I've had any part in that, but maybe I have by some of the voices that we've amplified now. So that's just my hope, is that some of those voices that have gotten louder, maybe I helped it do it a little bit. That could be one.
Do you, as an instructor or as a working with instructors, if somebody's listening to this and going, okay, I got to hire Cordie, I can also do my own thing to try to get it before I'm ready to hire Cordie. Where do people start? Where should they start? What should they do? I mean, iPhone 11, it's got a brilliant camera.
That's great.
So what do you tell them to do? I mean, it's overwhelming.
Yep. I would create a really this is how I think about any project, is figure out like, all right, if I'm doing a podcast or if I'm doing something, I'm going to pick a series which is about whether it's about putting or it's myths of performance or core strategy, or pick something really simple, really basic. If you're an instructor thinking about what to teach, pick something specific. What is one project like the mental game for the competitive golfer, right? You could tackle that in 6 podcasts, no problem. You list out your bullet points and check. You talk through it. That's a project Greg and I are working on hopefully here. So
good.
That's why that one comes to mind. But like, so, like you pick that and you check it off and you make that content and you just create something that you can actually get your hands around. Don't say I'm going to start a podcast. I think that's the worst idea that anybody's ever had. Say I'm going to do 6 interviews on this topic with these kinds of people, and I'm going to run it for 6 weeks starting in March 1st. And you kind of set that and do it, and then take a break. Like, did it work? Did it not work? Would I change anything?
How do we define work?
It could be any was I able to pull it off? Did I get people? Did I like this? Did I hate doing audio? Am I better in a different media? And then kind of shift from there if it's not. And if you loved it, then keep going on that route. But that's kind of anytime you can get your hands around a project and say, this is going to be 6 interviews, it's going to start here, it's going to run once a week, it's going to look like this, and here's what people are going to get out of it. I think that's the biggest thing. If people know what they're going to get out of something when they head into
it's so funny. You got to go back to marketing 101.
Yeah.
If they don't understand what they're getting out of it, and I think even with the video, like I think sometimes our colleagues, and I do too, we get stuck with the idea of, I got this great thing, I got this great idea, and you put it out and it just flops because it had nothing behind it. There was no whiffum, what's in it for me mentality.
Yep.
Tell me what it's going to give me to get me better, to invest 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, even if it's free.
Yeah. No, and it's just like the title of this podcast, right? If it was Cordie Walker Golf Science Lab was the title, nobody would listen, right? But if it's why golf brands should create content, or the 3 steps golf brands should use, or whatever it is, right? Like what people are going to get if they listen to this, just these last few minutes. That's going to be much more meaningful than that, right?
Besides perennial seller, what should somebody read? I mean, if I go on Gary Vee, listen, what I always tell people is study the hell out of Gary Vee, but you don't have to walk around with a camera behind you all the time. That's the biggest misperception of being, it's like, what is it about the Kardashians that sell? That they're very consistent to a brand and a lifestyle. Yes, they've got some assets that move things, okay? But Gary Vee is consistent production of content that matches improvement. what would you tell people to sit down and say, okay, if you could get this book or this,
Yeah.
maybe I'm writing your next project.
Yeah, well, I think one that has been very impactful in a practical way is StoryBrand.
Oh, it's brilliant.
You know
oh, yeah,
StoryBrand.
we're part of StoryBrand.
I use the framework mentally, just thinking through something real quick. Use the whole thing as you're going through stuff. Use
Describe
it all
it.
the time.
Describe it.
It's the basic idea of you're defining your character, you're defining the problem, you're defining how you help them get to that next level that they want to get to.
So, for instance, if you're like, hey, I want to solve people driving the ball better, you got to be more specific than that. You got to know the target that you're looking for. I'm looking for a 50-year-old male that's struggling with distance off the tee. The struggle, the battles, or the fact that he doesn't have time to exercise. He's getting beaten by the distance from his friends, and he's wondering if he can play the game anymore.
Yep.
Okay, now we're going to give him a framework. I'm going to guide him. So your videos are very guiding focused. I'm going to guide you through what I learned and give you that information, which is very StoryBrand.
Yep. I mean, as a coach, you're a guide, right? You are somewhat of a guide.
We want to
right?
think that.
Yep.
We want to think that.
Would you say that you are to folks
I hope
that you're a
that
guide?
would be a hell of a compliment. I hope I'm a guide.
Yeah.
I think some of our teachers sometimes want to be gurus, and they lose the guide approach.
Yeah.
It's what I call being a catalyst. I think people who are great at leading other people are the guide to carry them. I love the Donald Miller StoryBrand statement. Be Yoda to their Skywalker. Everybody who's watching you, everybody who wants to learn from you to hit the ball better, putt better, is Skywalker. Be Yoda to them. Don't be Skywalker.
Yep.
If you're bigger than the person, you failed.
Yep. Yep. So I think if you haven't read that, you need a framework
completely.
to ask questions and to know how to message to people. It's a basic thing that we all need to know how to do, no matter what you're doing, right? So that's a book that I think everybody should dive into. Perennial seller, really good. Read that lately. Obviously Gary Vee, you can always pick up something from his content or whatnot. What else have I ordered lately? Trying to think back. One book that I read, which I wonder if Atomic Habits.
Yeah,
you seen that
very
one by
good.
James Clear?
Yeah.
You enjoy that book?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I thought that was really good as well.
It's about just creating small. I mean, here's the thing. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not knocking James Clear. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
Do the small things better every single day
and
build a consistent explosion of productivity. But most people bail because it gets hard.
Yep.
It gets boring. And that's what social media is. You've got to put out stuff on a regular basis and teach people what they need to know about you. It's psychology 101. Marketing is nothing but human psychology.
Yep.
All right, when you go to the show, what are you looking for?
What am I
Are you looking for gifts and gadgets?
No.
How soon until we have 6 branding agencies at the show?
I don't know. Maybe soon, maybe not. I think a lot of teams are bringing that in-house now, honestly. So we'll see how it evolves.
I think even for clubs should have an in-house person.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Every party, every golf tournament, you should have somebody who's solely responsible for taking pictures and video. That's not a staged picture. Nothing wants to see the staged picture on your brochure of a guy whose hands are crossed with the wrong-sided club and that has never sniffed a golf course before in their life.
Let's change topics. I want to talk Whoop Band. Tell me why do you wear it?
I got it because one is, they reached out to me because they know my physical presence. No, I'm just kidding. The Whoop Band is, my wife was saying, hey, look, I don't know if you're sleeping well.
Yeah.
And so, are you getting as good a sleep as you could? So I went ahead and got it, and I got it for a year to try it.
Yeah.
And I like it. It's showing me.
Yeah, what have you learned?
That I don't get enough sleep.
Yeah.
Shocker, I don't need to pay $30 a month for that.
Yeah.
My schedule is such that I'm running. I mean, I try to tell people if an 80-hour week is a busy week, that's a calm week for me.
Yeah.
And so what I'm realizing is that there's certain things I need to do to get recovery when I'm in the chaos of my work. Because I go on bursts. So I'll go 7 to 21 to 35 days in a row.
Yep.
But then I end up crashing. And so what can I do to build in recovery during that time?
Yep.
I'd love to say it's to monitor my exercise. A lot of time, this is not trying to be funny. I don't have time to exercise.
Sure.
And so what it does is it allows me to find other ways to recover during the process. Now, I wore it when we went skiing, and I noticed that when I was exhausted after skiing, and I looked down and I'd burned 6,500 calories the first day because the altitude got me. My heart rate was flying, and I could barely make it back to the room to take a nap.
Yeah.
I could look at my Whoop and go, yeah, I got my ass kicked.
Yeah.
And I could watch it for the next 2 or 3 days, that impact. Like, what was the impact of that day on the residual effects over the next couple days? It's not just one night of sleep. There's a latency. How about you? What have you learned off
Yeah, I mean, sleep is obviously I don't get much of it.
No.
I recover horribly.
Yeah, I do too.
And most of the time I have very little strain.
I'm the same way.
You know, so it's like but when you have awareness of something, you start to think about it. So I actually have started like doing stuff. Like I worked out and went and played racquetball with friends and like, you know, have been starting to do things, and it was just simply the awareness. You know, when you have awareness of something, you start to get concerned if it's not looking so good. So like I thought it was interesting.
What got me was one of my high school kids, clients, dad said, we got the Whoop for him, and he started to try to win the sleep game.
Yeah, totally.
And I was like, oh, that's a great point. And there was a night, a couple nights ago, we had come back from skiing, we were tired, and my wife was like, hey, it's 8:45, you ready to go to bed?
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, I could get 10 hours of sleep. And I couldn't wait the next morning to see. And I was still deficient when I woke up. Yeah. I was like, son of a gun. But the power of it to me was it's giving – look, we know in psychology feedback creates a mechanism in a loop. Yeah. You can't learn without a feedback loop. So this gives a feedback loop to be able to tell us what it is. It's going to be amazing in the next 5 or 10 years how, to me, we're going to have a Whoop-style band on every human walking out there that's really going to have our medical records on it and interactive, and our physicians, maybe 10 years, are going to be able to monitor on a daily basis. Because we already know we have the glucose ones on the arm, and you're going to be able to see some of these indicators, and you're going to get real-time data about how stress impacts us, lack of recovery, and more. And as a psychologist, that's what's fascinating.
Have you learned anything from your players that wear it or anything like that?
I haven't spent a lot of time deep diving them yet. A couple of my players are wearing it. I'm getting enough data to be able to monitor. I've seen it across other sports. We know HRV and high HRV, which is a healthy HRV, heart rate variability for people who aren't paying attention or don't understand. It shows that it's a healthier, more reactive, responsive heart rate to manage incoming threat, stress, and so on. And that's contributed to on multiple different components. People with higher HRV tend to have a much more successful performance. And it's not because they went to bed last night and slept good. It's the accumulation effect of 3 or 4 nights leading up to it and feeling in a good spot and jumping off of a higher platform. That's what I'm interested to see. So I've got a couple of my tour players wearing it. I want to watch it. And it's quite interesting to watch and see. The other thing I like about it is it's just basic heart rate monitor. So when I do exercise, I don't have to change into something else. Yeah. And it took me a little while to get used to it being on my wrist. Yeah. Because I take off my watch to go to bed, stuff like that. And I dig it. I like it.
Have you, if your players, have you encouraged them to recover more or sleep more or anything like that?
No, big time. Because I've started watching a trough at later second half of the year.
Okay.
And, we forget how much adrenaline drives us. So when we get exhausted, worn out, adrenaline kicks in and we overcome it. But the vast majority of my elite athletes get sick after the season. They get an upper respiratory infection, they get the flu, they get something because of their immune system. And in the field of psychology, there's a concept or there's a field called psychoneuroimmunology. Okay. It's the interaction between the psychological states and systems with the neurological states with the immunology states. Okay, so it's that thing. So caregivers of people who care for somebody with breast cancer or Alzheimer's tends to have a higher incidence of stress, higher incidence of illness, and even a higher incidence of cancer because the body can't continue to fight. What we're looking at is on a basic, much lower level, but it's the same philosophy. We have to be well recovered over a period of time to be the most flexible. And the concept that I think is the most successful indicator of human success is the concept that I call mental flexibility, the ability to adjust to ever-changing demands and not be rigid in our thought process. If you can be mentally flexible, well, if you've got 4 hours of sleep and you're exhausted, you can't be mentally flexible. You don't have the energy. You don't have the resources. So I'm interested to see how they're going to respond second half of the year. This part of the year, it's easy. It's fun. It's warm weather. It's exciting. It's beautiful concepts. What's going to happen later?
What about this idea that guys who are sick or distracted play better, right? Like
it's not uniform. It's more along the lines of anecdotal.
Yep.
Because I could give you 100 players that are sick, didn't feel well, played bad. The one that didn't play well, lowered their expectations, just accepted what was in front of them and played okay.
Yeah.
It's a confirmation bias.
Right.
Well, I'm sick. I must play well today.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a little bit of a risk to assume that. But we do know that, players who are ill, if they lower their expectations, they play better. I don't know if I can make it through 18 holes today, but I'm going to try.
Yeah.
And they end up doing it because they don't really care if the ball's on the wrong side of the fairway or if it's off the toe. It's
Right.
good enough.
Right.
But when we're playing naturally, we're so freaked out that if it's off the toe, it's something bad.
Yeah.
When we're sick, we just screw it. I don't have the energy for that.
Yep.
That's relevant.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's good. So I think what I want the Whoop to be able to do is say, as a player, to wake up in the morning and go, okay, I had a good recovery. I have a low strain today. I have the ability to strain today.
Yeah.
I can engage. If they wake up on a day and they're like, today's going to be a tough day. Hey, today's going to be a tough day.
Yeah.
I got to be really aware of my thoughts, my feels, my reactions, and come into conclusions too soon.
I mean, I'll be very curious to hear your continued work with it with players over this coming year, because I'm sure it'll evolve as you learn more and they learn more.
I think the cool thing for me is my background in clinical psychology is as a psychophysiologist. So I'm very aware and interested in the entire process. Mm-hmm. I think what you're going to see over the next 5 or 10 years is a much more biological interpretation and application of psychology away from the quick fixes that we've been inundated with over the past 10 to 15 years of, hey, I got this new concept and idea. It's everything. It's like, oh, neurofeedback. Oh, it's everything. Or, I love mindfulness, but what happens in mindfulness is everybody becomes a mindfulness coach. And it's like, no. The human psychology is the most complex thing we have. Why are we looking for one? A nail doesn't build a house.
Yeah.
A nail is a tool that is used to secure a house.
Yeah.
That's how each of these factors are built in. And I think you're going to see over the next 5 or 10 years in the development of the psychological states that are going to rival neurology, biomechanics. You're going to see a completely different field in 5 or 10 years than what we see today.
I look forward to keep checking in with you and see what happens.
It's going to be good. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, man.
You got it,
Appreciate it.
You got it.